Accountant General of the Federation inaugurates Committee on Federal Government Financial Transparency Guidelines. President Muhammadu Buhari signs agreement for African Trade Insurance Agency. COVID-19, World Bank approves $114.28 million for Nigeria. Plus, Business Express takes a panoramic view into recent activities in the capital market. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. So good to know you're always tuned to Business Express. In line with the transparency and open government policy for making public financial information of all MDAs to promote accountability and anti-corruption campaign, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation has inaugurated the Committee on Federal Government Financial Transparency Guidelines and Open Treasury Portal. The Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, stated this at the inauguration of the committee at the Treasury House. The AGF posited that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning on the 4th of July 2018 presented a memo to the Federal Executive Council for approval to establish the Financial Transparency Guidelines and Open Treasury Portal. The approved transparency policy provides for transparency requirements, thresholds, and responsibilities as part of government policy on accountability in line with Freedom of Information Act 2014. In another development, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the instrument of accession of the agreement for the establishment of the African Trade Insurance Agency. The agreement and the agency, which are registered with the Secretariat of the United Nations, is in line with the Charter of the United Nations. Kenneth Nanim has details.
Lack of adequate political, non-commercial and commercial risk insurance is said to be an impediment to the availability of finance for investments in Africa and the expansion of Africa trade and intra-Africa trade. The African Trade Insurance Agency, when executed, will therefore acknowledge previous multilateral efforts made by African states towards regional economic integration through cooperation in trade. Recalling the economic objectives and aims of the African Union, there are several African treaties on regional economic integration, including the treaty establishing the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, the treaty establishing the Southern African Development Community, and the treaty establishing the Economic Community of West African States. A memorandum from the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, stated that the request for the President's signature on the agreement was equal to the directive of the Federal Executive Council that the instrument be prepared and forwarded for execution. The ratification, therefore, was adopted at the Grand Bay in the Republic of Mauritius on the 18th day of May 2000. The objective and purpose of the agency is to provide, facilitate, encourage, and develop the provision of or the support for insurance, including co-insurance and reinsurance, guarantees and other financial instruments and services for purposes of trade, investment, and other productive activities in African states in supplement to those that may be offered by the public or private sector or in cooperation with the public or the private sector.
Tanker drivers under the aegis of the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers Union have suspended their strike action in Lagos. The union announced the decision on Monday night following a meeting between its leadership and representatives of the state government. A communique jointly signed by the Commissioner of Energy and Mineral Resources, Olalere Odusote, and the Deputy National President of NUPENG, Solomon Kilanko, was issued at the end of the meeting, stating that both parties resolved that the state government would meet with the leaders of all security agencies to ensure the free passage of petroleum products in Lagos State and across the country. And staying with oil and gas, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has put the worth of crude oil and gas exported from Nigeria between May 2019 and May 2020 at $4.47 billion. According to its just released financial and operations report for May 2020, the oil firm noted that a total export sale of $174.80 million was recorded in May 2020, representing a 10.73% decrease when compared to the preceding month. It also stated that the corporation remitted a total of 1.83 trillion naira to the Federation Account Allocation Committee during the same period. We now go to the stock market, where the Nigerian stock market closed the month of July 2020 positive, as markets witnessed renewed bargain hunting during the month under review. The NSE All-Share Index inched up by 0.88% as against 3.12% loss recorded in the month of June 2020. Meanwhile, investors lost 7.45 billion naira as the NSE All-Share Index dropped by minus 0.06% to open the week negative yesterday, Monday. It closed at 25,027 basis points against the appreciation recorded previously. FBN, and Guarantee were the most active stocks to boost market turnover.
Let me assure Nigerians that all COVID-19 intervention funds are safe in the Treasury single account, and that government is still open to donations in this regard. Government has opened special accounts with 5 commercial banks which are directly linked to the Treasury single account. Donated funds are safe in the Central Bank of Nigeria. For verifiable information about the funds and other financial obligations of the federal government, please contact us directly at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. The account details for the donations are as follows.
To discuss more on activities in the capital market is Rotimi Fakeyojo, who joins us from Lagos via telephone. Mr. Fakeyojo, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning.
All right. The stock market was dominated by the bulls last week, but this week started with a return of the bears as we saw that the market lost 0.06% yesterday. What was responsible for the gains last week?
Well, for last week, the gains that we saw was as a result of investors' renewed confidence in the market, because having seen the H2 result, that is the half-year results of most of the quoted companies, and the kind of expectation investors were having was such that things were going to be very bad. But as things turned out to be, it's quite contrary to the expectation. That is, investors actually saw that there is still a lot of activities going on, and also the profitability that they thought would have declined is still very much on top. So investors, having analyzed those results and digested them, they now came back to the market at least to renew the mandate they had suspended before, and also to suspend selling on most of the securities. But for yesterday, we saw a situation whereby the market closed negative, and when you look at the various securities that actually led to the negative closing of the market, top amongst such was Buhari Cement, and I think is a highly capitalized stock in the market, and it definitely dictates a lot of tunes when it comes to the direction that the market will go. So for that yesterday, it's too early to actually conclude that the bears are back, because we saw a sparing loss in the Osha index and the market capitalization. So I believe strongly that the sentiment held for last week definitely will still continue to prevail this week.
Okay, so the market is still trading negative this morning. How do you describe activities on the floor of the market?
Well, I believe you are taking a reflection of what happened yesterday, because the market will actually open actively for today's trade at 10.
Yes.
That's when we'll begin to see a lot of changes. So investors, definitely, I believe things will turn around today, and the sentiment still remains positive for the market. Although we are getting a lot of responses from the local investors, the foreign portfolio investors are still very much in sight for now.
Okay, let's talk about the month of July. Last month closed in red, sustaining the negative sentiment that was recorded throughout that month. What major trends shaped the performance in July?
For July, like I said, the expectation was so rife, and there was a lot of apprehension within the market space, and investors were actually apprehensive, and that was why we saw for some part of June and also July, we saw the market really taking a downward trend. And I think it was all because of the expectation of results, because all over it has been said that the lockdown and the pandemic definitely will impact on the market so negatively. So investors actually really took a lot of cautious positions. Many that wanted to buy actually were sitting on the fence, and those people who weren't too confident in the market actually did a sell-off, and that is the reason why we saw that kind of change. But I believe all that may change for a while, because at least everything is beginning to settle down now, and we are not expecting a resurgence of the lockdown again.
Okay, what big profitable stocks should investors be eyeing this month?
I think my advice to investors is that they should ensure that whatever stock they are buying are stocks with good fundamentals. It's stocks that have trend of dividend payment, stocks that have good governance, and stocks that at least over time it has been tested, that the liquidity that has liquidity, that is when you want to sell or buy, you can get people to buy or sell. When you want to and the volatility also is minimal. So I think for such stocks, they are mostly the blue chip stocks. We can see them in the banking sector stocks, the industrial goods, and some also in consumer goods. But all in all, what investors should watch out for are stocks that have good fundamentals and good and history of dividend payment. Because if prices go down, you'll be consoled by the expectation of good dividend payments at the end of the day. So you are still not lost out. Because investment in the capital market is actually a long-term investment.
Okay, you talked about portfolio investors previously. How do you see investor sentiment, especially of these portfolio investors, as the stock markets the world over are recovering from the impact of COVID-19? How do you see the sentiment the month of August and even beyond?
Yeah, the foreign portfolio investors actually take a withdrawal. I mean, they withdrew from most frontier and emerging markets, of which Nigeria belong. And those foreign portfolio investors actually took take a headlong position just before at the onset of the tick of the pandemic. So I think for now, one other reason why we may not really see them coming forth quickly is the currency challenge, the exchange rate challenge. That is, they expect that Naira could still go down further, could still be further devalued. So they are still very much cautious. They're not making a comeback for now. But I believe eventually they'll be here. So those are definitely the things that are guiding their sentiments as at this time.
Okay. Will your projections of the market's performance for August be any different from that of July?
Well, I expect it to be a bit better than what we saw in July, because as things were right now, I think things are beginning to settle, and investors, everybody is beginning to have to see a ray of light at the end of the tunnel, and people are beginning to believe more in the system. Because as at the end of the first quarter, everybody believed that the world was coming to an end, but all that are being put behind us right now, and I don't expect a huge resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic again.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rotimi Fakeyojo, who joined us from Lagos. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
And moving on, Minister of State Petroleum Resources Timi Silva has officially inaugurated the Nigerian Gas Transportation Network Code to optimize gas availability and delivery in country, in line with federal government's promise to add value to gas and make it available to Nigerians. The Nigerian Gas Transportation Network Code provides set-up rules and principles for gas transportation. The aim is to promote gas to power, growth of gas-based industries, and enhance revenue for government. It will also promote trading and re-deepen the penetration of gas assets in Nigeria.
The Nigerian Gas Transportation Network Code, the National Gas Expansion Program, and the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program will help us achieve the presidential mandate of gas penetration, gas-based industrialization, and economic diversification.
Minister of State Petroleum Resources Timi Silva unveiled the Network Code electronic licenses and administration system for seamless use and migration to the Network Code for gas transportation. And the World Bank Board of Directors has approved $114.28 million financing to help Nigeria prevent, detect, and respond to the threat posed by COVID-19, with a specific focus on state-level responses. The bank said this in a statement that included $100 million credit from the International Development Association and $14.28 million grant from the Pandemic Emergency Financing Facility. It adds that through the COVID-19 Preparedness and Response Project, the government of Nigeria will provide grants to 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory as immediate support to break the chain of COVID-19 local transmission and limit the spread of coronavirus through containment and mitigation strategies. The federal government says it has so far spent $409.9 billion naira on the payment of severance benefits to ex-workers and death benefits of the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN. The Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, said this in a statement signed by the Bureau's head of public communications, Amina Othman Tukur, noting that she said the payment streams were categorized into two: severance payments to former active staff of PHCN, the payment of PHCN retirees' benefits, which PHCN could not pay before it handed over to the successor companies. The statement also adds that for active, the total number submitted to the BPE by PHCN was 47,913, and out of the number, 47,275, representing 99%, have been fully paid. Let's now see how the Naira is exchanging for other international currencies. Gold prices could forge ahead to $4,000 per ounce in the next 3 years, but factors such as the development of a coronavirus vaccine and the November U.S. elections could change the fortunes of the precious metal, analysts say. A quick look at the domestic market is next. And this is where we end this episode of Business Express. Don't forget you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA_News_Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback, so join us again on Wednesday for another package. I am Muplang Dakok saying stay safe.